I always like when there's more like species diversity in Star Wars.
Me too.
Yeah, for sure.
I would really love to see a non-human protagonist someday.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah.
There's so many species out there.
We're going to have Ahsoka coming up soon. But,
Never mind. All right.
Well,
Hello there. You found the Lost Holocron, an ancient artifact of lore and legends from a galaxy far, far away. Each episode of the Lost Holocron, you will join a discussion of media from the Star Wars universe. We're your guides. I'm Tim, and I'm joined by Kyle,
Hi.
Scott,
hey.
and Stuart.
G'day.
Today we're covering the material up to and including Chapter 5 of Heir to the Empire. So Stuart, what has happened so far?
So it's 5 years after the Empire's defeat of Endor in Return of the Jedi. And on the ex-Imperial capital of Coruscant, Luke, Leia, and Han are struggling not only with their own evolving identities, but also the demands of their expertise, as the militaristic rebellion aspires to establish a legitimate and functioning government. On Myrkr, smugglers Talon, Karrde, and Jade observed Imperial Warlord Grand Admiral Thrawn collect the native ysalamiri, which have a unique ability to vacate the Force. Thrawn then travels to Wayland on the hunt for technology left by the late Emperor that will aid him in his plan to retake territory from and ultimately destroy the New Republic. While there, he encounters Jedi clone Jaruus C'baoth. No, he encounters Jedi clone Jaruus C'baoth, whose allegiance he gains by offering him Leia's unborn twins.
Yeah, that crazy name.
Yeah.
Jaruus C'baoth. We're going to struggle with that for
Yeah,
this entire book.
he could have written any name, and that's the name he chose.
Yeah. That's pretty wild, even for Star Wars names.
Right.
I wonder, are the names actually given from LucasArts, or whether the artists come up with their own names?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah, I assume it was the writers, but yeah, maybe not. I have no idea.
In this case, I would assume it's the writer because there's not a Lucasfilm story group at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have that Jason, what was the guy's name who is the keeper of the Holocron?
Oh, was that a thing?
Yeah, it was like the most awesome job title ever. This guy's
Oh my God.
job was to keep an internally consistent timeline for Lucasfilm.
Yeah, forget the story group. I wanna be the keeper of the Holocron. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Leland Chi, keeper of the Holocron.
Leland Chi, yeah.
Leland Chi.
Ah,
That is so cool. Shout out to Leland Chi. So yeah, we have quite a few plot threads so far, huh, guys? So, Scott,
yes.
what happened in this chapter?
So it was what's the best way to say it? A debriefing, I guess, of Han's report, basically at his failure to recruit the smuggler guy. And basically this report also, Admiral Akbar's there, Mon Mothma is kind of in charge of everything. She's overseeing it. She's got the gavel. She's smacking the gavel. It wasn't a very exciting chapter, but...
Oh, really? I thought it was.
You thought it was?
I actually liked it, yeah.
Oh, all right. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're here to
Let's fight,
discuss
Scott.
things.
Let's go.
Okay, I'll get my lightsaber. You get yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but so we're introduced to the character Borsk Phalia, the Bothan, who's in charge. He's like the leader of the Bothans. Who, well, it says a sizable force joined the Republic, and to me, it sounds like Phalia kind of wants to squeeze his way into the top.
Mhm. Many of his Bothans died, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
Mm.
I really liked the way Bothans were implemented in this instance because it's a pretty memed line, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I always really like the tension that comes within the politics of like your good force when there's one member that is on the good side, but they're showing an extra amount of ambition.
Mm.
I think why I liked this chapter so much was I liked seeing all the different dynamics between the leaders of this government. It made me think of like the boardroom scene on the Death Star in A New Hope, but like the rebellion version of it.
Yeah.
Obviously not nearly the same scene,
Yeah,
but I pictured a
interesting.
very, very similar setting.
Right.
Okay.
It did have that kind of dynamic to
Yeah,
it.
I can see that.
Yeah. And I especially like tying what was initially a throwaway line, but is now a very memed line, to this character here, and having it be something that fuels their ambition more. Because it's not just them wanting power now, it's them feeling like they're owed power.
Do you think they feel entitled because of the great cost to the Bothans?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was about to ask that too.
I do think so, yes. Yeah, so there was a lot I liked about this chapter.
Yeah, I felt like the tension was quite well conveyed between the different parties in this at the table.
It was. I guess the setting for me just wasn't very exciting, but
Yeah, no, I get that.
It was an important chapter for sure, and it showed a lot of the interesting tension between those up at the top, between Akbar and Phalia and Mon Mothma, how they're still not quite, they still quite haven't figured this whole Republic thing out yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What did you guys think about Akbar?
I guess just how he was talking to Han, it was just like, it seemed like you're heavily relying on Han to just get this taken care of. Like, it seemed like they had no kind of backup plan of their own. Like, Han didn't show up until late in the rebellion. Like, what was the plan? Like, it feels like there was no plan for if they won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'll find many real-world allegories to that as well.
Yeah.
Many rebellions. Well, we won. Now what?
Exactly.
Oh my god.
New
Oh
dictatorship?
God, right? Exactly.
I just imagined Admiral Akbar doing that Heath Ledger Joker monologue where he's like, I'm like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with it.
Like when we won the revolution, and it's like, well, now what? King George, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, though, I kind of got that vibe from the second chapter. I mean, we just got cursory info about how it's being set up from Luke and Leia's perspective, but I really enjoyed seeing that delivered upon with a very tangible example.
I feel like Akbar has also been set up in the last few chapters to be this idealistic military leader that's kind of absolutist in their personal philosophy. And that really shows in this chapter where he kind of takes a moral high ground and he's a little bit grandstanding. Well, I wouldn't say grandstanding because like he's not showing off to anybody, but he feels like if you weren't part of this, you don't really deserve to, have a place at the table. And I think that also plays into the dynamic between Phalia and him, because the Bothans came in late to the game and Akbar has been there the whole time, and he's quite an accomplished military leader. And he feels like, this new hotshot's coming in to try and, schmoozy his way up the ranks and not really kind of earn it in any tangible sense from his point of view.
This upstart usurper. Who's this guy?
This purple-eyed, fluffy creature.
That's right, he did have purple eyes.
Yeah.
I actually quite like how Zahn adds these bits of information. Like, immediately, once there is an alien here, he doesn't kind of let you sit with a name, which I've found that some other novels do, is like, oh, well, this guy is an Iridonian, and unless you actually know a lot about Star Wars and can name unnamed things on screen, that you don't know what an Iridonian is. Like, maybe you get that there's horns, but like there's also many types of Iridonians, and what color is the skin, what color is this, what color is that, how tall is it, how big is it, and like this really, I feel like Zahn has a good way of folding these things in so that as soon as you're trying to make a mental image of what's going on here, you understand that Akbar has a domed head, he's salmon-colored, he's got webbed hands. And that was all communicated like within like his first introduction there. Like his domed head is bubbling in reaction to this, and he makes a gesture so that it's apparent that he's some sort of amphibian.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty much all the information you need. Like, just the right amount without going overboard, which is honestly really impressive now that you pointed out.
Yeah.
I always like when there's more like species diversity in Star Wars.
Me too.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the High Republic is trying to do that, but they are not as good as folding it in as Zahn is in this book.
Yeah.
I would really love to see a non-human protagonist someday in visual Star Wars media.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah.
There's so many species out there.
We're going to have Ahsoka coming up soon. But
never mind. All right.
Well, okay, more non-humans. How about that?
Yes.
More non-humans.
Right. Well, we also have to work on our
original
human diversity too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want an original non-human character coming in soon.
Right.
I want Homeward Bound, but in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
So then, Tim, back at you. What did you think of Failure in this chapter?
Failure. I liked Failure. I'm honestly surprised at how much I liked Failure, because I do empathize with the whole, I'm new to this, but I still have given quite a bit to this movement. I don't think the instinct to be like, hey, I deserve power is ever a good one, but I get it. I understand it. And I really like the dynamic it adds to it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't agree with Akbar's feelings about Johnny Come Lately, but I
don't agree with Akbar's feelings either.
But I think that's the good thing. And when you choose characters for a scene, is that your characters will be at opposites, and somewhere in the middle there's the right point. But
yes,
you want to explore those extremes from those different characters.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we also had our heroes in this, Han and Leia. It was pretty, for me, it was very different, but also refreshing to see them in a diplomatic context. Yeah.
What was strange for me was that Leia seemed a little fed up with the situation, and I felt like as she's a lifetime diplomat. She was raised by Bail Organa to be the representative for Alderaan, and has been in part of the rebellion all of her life. So why does she feel so isolated, or not isolated, but why does she feel so alien in this context, do you think?
That's a very good question. Yeah.
I keep getting a vibe from her that's she's very exasperated, very exhausted, very just overwhelmed with the whole politics aspect of it. And as you just mentioned, she's been doing it her whole life. I don't know if this is necessarily Timothy Zahn trying to develop her character more at this point, or to be to go a different direction than her on-screen character, or because on her on-screen character she seemed really badass, and then in these couple of chapters she seems very exhausted.
Well, I mean, maybe it's just the fact that she's pregnant with twins, and she's just fed up with this at this point.
And she's got a boo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
thinking. She did mention she wants to go traveling with him in chapter 2.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The thought does cross my mind, though, that although she was an outward-facing diplomat, internally she has been part of the rebellion her whole life. So maybe she values action more than the infighting that she's seeing happening every day in these councils.
Yeah, you can't solve these problems with a blaster.
Right, which seems like something she likes to do.
Try.
Yeah, you can try. Yes, you can.
It seems like that's what Han wants.
Yeah.
It's shut up, Akbar.
I don't think Mon Mothma would think too kindly of her guys getting blasted in the boardroom, but
I kind of feel like Leia says that that when they're taking off, that it's going to be like old times. I feel like Han, was it just me? Did Han seem like he had like a, yeah, sure, old times?
No,
Yeah.
I noticed that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That really stood out to me.
Do you think it was because it was? Do you think he doesn't think it's going to be like old times? It's just kind of like, just not. It's not the same as it was.
I think so. I think that's part of it, because he does have a really unexpected perceptiveness about him.
Yeah. And then especially in the audiobook, the voice actor reading the part very emphatically emphasizes the like old times, so it's very obvious that he's like, oh yeah, sure. It's like, almost like she's like that, like old times. It's almost like he's saying like, yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Oh,
See, that's what I got from it. I felt like old times is, what do you mean like old times? Old times we were struggling against the Empire, and we didn't end up in a lot of good situations. I don't know what good times you're remembering here.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think that for him it could potentially be that it's definitely not going to be like old times for him, because now Luke and Leia are both Jedi. And
Right, yeah.
he
That could be
also
too.
seemed to be a little frustrated, because I remember Mon Mothma recommended to Leia that she bring Luke on the mission to, what's that planet called? Bimisari?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bimisari.
Because they like a hero. And so I think there's also, I don't think it's jealousy there. I think Han is definitely feeling a little potentially underappreciated, or even just exasperated by the fact that his role is not going well.
I get
and
it.
Luke appears to be doing nothing,
Yeah.
I guess.
Right.
But he's being celebrated anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I get kind of a third wheel vibe from Han at that, between Luke and Leia. Like, they're not just brother sister, but now they're master apprentice, so they have kind of a different relationship as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I get from Han is that he has like rejected a lot of his roles now. So he's rejected being a smuggler, he's rejected being a general, and he still feels really out of place that he's an expecting father, and everybody else seems to have a position, whereas he is more, I don't know, hung out in the wind.
Yeah.
Leia's got her part to play. Luke's got his part to play. He's just kind of the designated driver, almost.
Ah,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
yeah,
for
that's a
sure.
good way to put
Yeah.
it.
He doesn't get to party like everybody else, so he's
Yeah.
got it right.
And this, I like, he seems like they're just kind of digging into him. Like, why haven't you gotten your smuggler friends to agree with us yet? And it's like, there's only so much he can do. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Particularly if he feels like he's pushed that aside as well.
yeah.
Do you guys think he is right when he's mentioning that they need time to think, or that he's just bluffing?
Yeah, I think he believes that they need time to think, because there's a line where he says that these smugglers aren't just like, what do they call them? Hot jockeys? Space jockeys?
Right, they did have a specific word.
Yeah.
It was a very fun one, too.
Yeah. Which is a shame that I'm not remembering it right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, smugglers have this kind of like dastardly image about them, but he knows from the inside that smugglers are conservative business people. They are not going to take excessive risks. They want the guaranteed, or what was it? The devil you know. They want the devil you know rather than anything else in particular. That to gamble everything on the New Republic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. Part of me wondered if he was saying that to save his skin a bit, because that's something he tends to do. But I do feel like it's a little hard to tell, because I think that line could be read either way. At the same time, though, I don't know. The way he expounds on it does sound like there's a fair amount of expertise, but even then, with him understanding them, that's still not a guarantee.
Well, I don't see the point in him lying about it, because I mean, like, it's not like this is a job for him. It's not like he's worried that he's gonna get fired if he doesn't perform. Like,
True. Yeah. He'll just go back to smuggling.
like, I don't see a reason for him to lie about what
True.
he thinks.
Mm.
Because ultimately, what are they going to do about it? Because if he were to just straight up tell them they're not going to be interested, well, then there's not really a difference.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Kyle.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lying about what, like, a task is something that you do if you, like, to your boss who's like, where are those reports? And it's just like, oh, they're almost done.
I need those TPS reports on my desk.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. The situation, the dynamic is totally different. And I mean, like, there's a little bit of, like, he's bluffing, and Failure calls him out and is like, oh, well, what about this? And it says, like, through gritted teeth, that he has to clarify that. But I do think that, yeah, as you say, Kyle, he's got nothing, he's not trying to, meet his quarterly review. He's, there's something to what he's trying to contribute.
Another reason I liked this chapter was the description of Mon Mothma.
Oh, yes.
I thought it really humanized her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
You mentioned in a previous chapter that you weren't so impressed with Mon Mothma, and this chapter, I think, put a nice frame around her to, like, legitimize her position within the government and within the story.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, no, I feel very differently about her now.
Mm.
Yeah. Now that we have that image of her looking very, very tired.
Yeah. That was very well conveyed.
Yes.
She seems like a very pragmatic politician, and then just the minutiae of the jockeying between other factions just seems to be tying her out. And she's not cut out for war. She wants political action, and not getting that is taking a real toll on her.
Mm. So she uses the gavel instead.
Yeah. I like the way that they characterize that as well, because it seems like everybody respects her as well. Because she's not banging her gavel trying to get order. It said it was even, like, deferent, that she just kind of, she taps it. Every time it mentions that it's being hit, it's a tap. It's not a big noise. It's just, attention, students, Bueller, kind of.
Yeah, it's just there to, like, punctuate the meeting, basically, like, start and end.
Yeah. And everybody listens to her. Like, she has something to say, everybody turns. It's everybody seems to understand that she is quite knowledgeable, or should be deferred to.
Leia seems a little frustrated, though.
What makes you think that?
She was catching up with Han and telling Han about things that were going on, and then she got to Mon Mothma, and there was this moment I really liked where I got the impression Leia was kind of tensing up getting there. And then as soon as she mentions Mon Mothma to Han, then Mon Mothma literally interrupts.
Right,
yeah, and has to. That gave me the impression that she's kind of hovering over Leia a bit in a way, or that Leia feels some kind of pressure from her.
Okay. So what do you think it is between them? Do you think, like I mentioned earlier, that Leia's more a woman of action, whereas Mon Mothma's very sit down and talk about this? Or what do you think's going on there?
I got an impression that there was something between them, and I couldn't really tell what. So I wanted to see what you guys thought.
I don't. It seems I got a sense of it just being tense. I don't know why. I maybe it was just the way the audiobook I was listening to was describing it, but I don't know. It doesn't.
Here's the specific moment from the book. It's Leia speaking to Han. She ends the recap by saying, and then of course Mon Mothma, and then a word with you, Leia. Mon Mothma's voice came from over Han's shoulder. Han turned to face her, sensing Leia tense a little beside him as she did likewise.
Yeah.
So something's going on there.
I don't really get a micromanager vibe from Mon Mothma, but could I be wrong about that?
I don't think so either. I don't.
I don't see it.
She's just. Well, I feel like Leia was about to say something to Han to kind of, I don't know, maybe complain about her. That's kind of the vibe I got, but I'm not sure what you guys think. But then it's like, bam, she's right behind you. She's like, oh crap,
Yeah, she was in the middle of describing Thalia and Akbar's spat during the meeting before Han showed up.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was just something I noticed and something I'm curious to see if it gets developed further. Because I'm wondering if it seems like Leia desires action and is tired by the politics, and
yeah.
Mon Mothma seems to have just accepted it. So in Leia's mind, perhaps that's what Mon Mothma represents.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
She's the complacency to filibustering during the meetings.
Yeah, or really I think Mon Mothma is the one trying to get things to happen, as you said, Stuart. And so perhaps Leia's just feeling that pressure a bit more because of the way Mon Mothma is handling it.
Right, yeah.
And then
she's not used to the kind of action that's required.
Yeah.
That gives me a good impression of what's going on.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the original group is just that they were more into the adventuring, less into the relaxing part of it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people groaned when the very first episode, not the first episode, episode 1 came out, and in the opening crawl it mentions taxes, and people are like, oh, it's going to be this kind of story. Taxes and tariffs and
Han, Luke, and Leia were the ones that ground along with us.
yeah.
I kind of related to Han reading this chapter. It's like me reading this chapter is like him being in the meeting. It's like, wait, no.
Right.
Really brought it to life for me. I thought I was there in the boardroom.
Yeah.
Emphasis on the board.
I am Han Solo.
I always shoot first.
Yeah.
No, I know we joke about it, but I like those details. It makes the world feel very real. That everybody still pays taxes in the end, and everything runs for money. And there's the adventure side of it, but at the end of the day, the smugglers are not respectable business people, but they are business people, conservative business people. And there's an underlying force in the narrative that is not just the metaphysical.
Definitely. And so now we're off to Bimisari with the original 3 heroes.
Yeah.
Right.
Any final thoughts?
I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
What
If it was like everything up to this has kind of been like getting prep, I kind of feels like more
Things are moving now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. This is the first book in the trilogy. You got to have some set up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Although, speaking of heroes, what do you think the narrative about Luke at Endor was? Because that was brought up, that it was quite well known. Yet in a previous chapter, there is also doubt that Vader had died during that battle.
That's a good observation.
So do you think that there is some sort of like propaganda that Luke has defeated the Emperor, defeated Vader, and there are people that are kind of skeptical about that? But again, as we talked about before, the mysticism of the Force and Jedi and Sith is a narrative that people nod their head along to, but don't kind of feel that.
Yeah.
In Legends I know in Star Wars, even Vader would seem kind of like of a mythical figure himself. Do people know? Did a lot of people know Vader to begin with?
Yeah, I
they
think
do.
so.
Like if the word spread that like, oh, Luke Skywalker killed Vader, people would be like, I don't know who either of those people are.
I think Vader was pretty well known.
Yeah, I feel like they would not. They would definitely not know this little farm boy from Tatooine. They would know Vader, though. I'm pretty sure they would know Vader.
Vader's a lot more memorable than the average Admiral.
Yeah.
I always got the vibe that Jedi in general were more of a like mythical kind of thing in Star Wars lore. They're like there's a peacekeepers. They call themselves Jedi, but like they talk about magic powers and magic swords or something like that.
They do some freaky shit with their hands.
I feel like during Clone Wars,
Yeah.
Jedi were more real to the greater population in the galaxy, whereas like after the Clone Wars, during like the original trilogy, the Jedi were kind of almost like a myth. Not only because they were almost none of them left, but just the stories of them had kind of died out too, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I got that impression from the original trilogy too.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I guess this book came out before the prequel trilogy, but the prequel trilogy seems to then paint it as that people are willing to forget the Jedi because of the destruction that they brought during the Clone Wars.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's not just that these myths are dying out, it's that only very few people believe that these are myths about good people. That the galaxy at wide thinks that these are myths about warlords, almost.
True.
People that we want to kind of forget about and sweep into history.
Yeah.
Right. Back to your original question, Stuart. I based on those two pieces of information that you put across, I definitely think that the idea being spread is that Luke defeated Vader. Because I think that's a much more politically useful story than he redeemed his father with the power of love,
Right.
Yeah.
There was no Huey Lewis in the news in the end credits of
Yeah. Oh my god.
Well, they do talk about how the BIMs are rather hero-oriented, and Luke's part in the Battle of Endor is rather well known. At this point, I feel like he'd be more of a well-known-ish name.
It could also be that the story got out of hand. Maybe it wasn't propaganda, but maybe it became the legend of Luke Skywalker. And people are like, yeah, he killed Darth Vader and the Emperor.
In one swoop. He got them both.
And it could also be that Luke just didn't want to share exactly what happened. He wanted to keep it very private. And so then the story got out of hand from there.
I'm sure it's not something that he excitedly tells people about.
No, definitely not.
No, it's definitely very bittersweet, particularly in the beginning as well. In the second chapter, he reflects on that he's been orphaned 3 times, and one of them being in redeeming his father, that his father saved his life only to be also killed in the act.
Right.
Although, having that speculation out of the way, I do feel more resonance with what you said, Tim, about the story being politicized, that this is something, and I think it also comes with Luke not wanting to talk too much about it, that they kind of got taken as a political narrative, and now it's a lot more, the story is bigger than the man himself.
Yes. Luke Skywalker, a legend. Cue Last Jedi.
Yeah, I feel like at this point the Skywalker name is definitely well known. Yeah.
Yes.
The problem with that is that I read somewhere that Skywalker is supposedly a very common name.
Huh.
I was going to say,
is it like the Smith of this?
Oh.
Yeah. It's supposed to be the Smith, because like Star Wars is a frontier universe, and a Skywalker is just somebody who travels to another planet to start their life anew, and they set up in the frontier. Yeah, and I feel like we never got that anywhere in the trilogy, or the hexology, or the nonology.
That's true.
So you're telling me the Rise of Skywalker could have been about a working class uprising, and it would have been totally justified.
It could have been, and I would have been much more happier with it.
Yet another better version of that movie that could have potentially existed.
So her calling herself Rey Skywalker isn't a bad thing, because she could be just a Skywalker going from whatever planet she was on to Tatooine.
Exactly.
Oh,
but
come on. Come on, guys. How do you mess up a movie that badly?
So I feel like there were several points in this in the whole saga that it could have been brought up. My particular favorite of my own ideas, so take it with a grain of salt, is that at some point in episode 1, Qui-Gon is contacting the council, and he says that I found this boy Skywalker, and one of the council members, like Mace Windu, could have said, Skywalkers are a dime a dozen. They are all across the galaxy. What's so special about this one?
Hmm.
And I think just like that one line would have made it more apparent that like this nobody, Skywalker, in the original trilogy blew up the first and second Death Stars and killed the Emperor, and that this Anakin Skywalker as well is no relation to Luke Skywalker, and that Anakin is also this nobody coming out from the frontier that is this amazing Jedi.
Yeah.
That I feel like that retcon bit of information is very important and should have been put in somewhere in the movies.
It is a really good bit of information.
Very interesting.
Because I know there's currently a canon novel where a major plot point is there being a smear campaign against Leia in the New Republic because people find out her connection to Darth Vader. Having Skywalker be a common name definitely avoids that bit of trouble.
Yeah,
even though that is a really fun plot development.
It's probably smart. She goes by Organa.
Yes.
Not Skywalker.
Organa Solo.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And then, according to the Solo movie, that wasn't his actual last name either. So, who knows?
Something.
It was just a name given to him.
I kind of like that.
He should have picked Skywalker.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. He could have been, honestly.
Everybody's named Skywalker. Your name is Skywalker. Your name is Skywalker. Your name is Skywalker. Right.
I'm surrounded by Skywalkers.
Yeah.
I knew
We're
it.
all
I'm surrounded by
Skywalkers.
Skywalkers.
Kyle, have you seen Spaceballs?
Yeah, I've seen it.
God, that's one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time.
Oh, great. We should do a watch party for that one too.
Oh, that'd be
I
good.
would love that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Kyle, did you have another thought?
Oh no, I just with all the Skywalker thing, I remembered I went to school with 3 other kids with the same last name as me. None of us were related.
Yeah, I had 2 friends with like a really obscure last name that were not at all related.
Yeah.
It was a name I had never heard before or since.
As far as the length of this chapter, I think it was as long as it needed to be. I think it was just, I think it said what it needed to say, and I really enjoy that about anything, especially recently with TV shows that are being just directly to streaming services. They're no longer like, oh, this is a 26-minute TV show. It's the last episode of Stranger Things was 2.5 hours, and
which honestly I think they could have split up, but
right,
power to them if they want to do whatever the length they want.
More Star Wars relevant, like the episodes of The Mandalorian vary drastically, but they tell the story they want to tell, and the episode ends.
I do notice a lot of comments with people getting frustrated at certain episodes being shorter, and I always see those, and I'm like, I don't care. It needs to feel right. I don't care if it's 12 minutes or 2 hours. It needs to be right.
If it feels wrong, like if randomly like a 10-minute episode of The Mandalorian were to come out, I'd be like, that felt weird.
Which is totally possible if your story's bad.
Right.
It doesn't matter how long it is. If it can still feel long.
It could be the best 10 minutes of the whole show. You know?
Could be, yeah.
A 50-minute episode could feel like 5.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought the Kenobi finale was supposed to be a lot longer than it was, but it was still a really good length.
It was, yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure if books have had that issue the same as TV shows, because like novels will vary from like 250 pages to some hundreds and hundreds of pages long, and I always felt like books are the length that books are supposed to be. And
yes, but books do not have to factor in advertisements.
No.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Well, most streaming shows don't have to anymore either.
Or bladders in the case of movies.
Yeah. So yeah, this chapter in the book was like 3.5 pages long.
Yeah.
But The audiobook was
Or
like
more specifically, how many showings you can fit in a day with movies while still making the audience feel like they've gotten their money's worth from the ticket.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like it didn't feel short. Like the content of the chapter was exactly what it should have been. I don't feel like it should have been padded with any other information. I think we made the comment with chapter 1 as well being short, but it had all the information that it needed to have. And yeah, I feel the same about this chapter as well.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Well, guys, thank you for joining me once again. Looking forward to the next one. And to you, the listener, this has been The Lost Holocron. You can find transcripts, links to discussions, and more at our website, lostholocron.com. While you're there, you can learn how you can support the creation of future episodes. Read on, and we will be waiting for you in the next transmission. We would be honored if you would join us.